Okay, that should work. Okay, but we can record it. So we'll just do this one off air, I guess.
That's fine.
All right, hold on. Let me. Yeah,
Had
that's.
7 views already.
Well, do, do we know from who?
Uh, I would assume Lindsay, Dad, me, you. That's 4. Does it count?
Well, I mean, I'm not watching it right now, so
Oh,
I mean, we're still streaming right now, and it still looks like it's going good. So let's just see what's going on. So I'll just leave it. I got the recording going.
it doesn't look okay on my side. Watching it. Hang on 1 second. That's why. Okay. I look frozen. I don't know.
I think that I think I know why that is. Okay, there. I need that window. I need this window up.
You're trying to do all this on one, like, 15-inch screen, aren't you?
Is it that apparent? Okay, wait. Fuck.
I wish I was that good at math that I could, like, track your eye movements, and based on how little I see your eye moving, I can calculate the hypotenuse of your screen. That's how they're measured on the diagonal.
There we go. I figured out how to do it now. Okay, now I got all the stuff up that I need to monitor. Nope. Nope. Okay, there we go. Now I got all the stuff up that I need to monitor. We went from 7 to 0 views. That's awesome. That's what happens when you have technical difficulties. Anyways, let's start this. Let's start this tractor over.
You think my tractor's sexy?
Sure. Okay, welcome back to ChknAtk, episode 21, take 2.
Take 2.
I am one of your talented hosts, Shid.
And
Joined
I am
today.
your shitty host, Talented.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Cheers. I have the wrong beverage. I'll go grab
Got
one
a
in a minute.
bubbly.
But yeah, so it has. I haven't got too much gaming, so our gaming recap is kind of non-existent for me. But we went to wine country over the weekend. Had like a 5-day camp trip out in Eastern Washington, and got a lot of wine tasting in, like too much wine tasting in, and there was also a hot air balloon rally. So saw some hot air balloons, which
Has a hot air balloon festival every summer. We took Viv
oh
to it
okay.
this year, and she loved it, pointing at all the balloons, and she wanted to try to go catch them and everything. They do a part of it's actually a race. They do a balloon race, and I
They
forget
move
where they
so
go
damn
land, but
slow. That would be the most boring race ever. Be like,
and we see the Goodyear balloon putting in a surge here. He is now approaching 2 miles per hour.
yeah, it'd be
I
like
think that's his top
he's
end here,
approaching on
Steve.
the inside of the turn, and he's still approaching. I Are they moving? I think they are.
That, that's when the announcer just needs to go. oh, buckle this, ludicrous speed, go.
And then it goes from 2 to 2.5 miles an hour. But
Slow
yeah,
down.
no, it was really cool because there was a river right there. So what they were doing was they were taking off from the airport, which was like a block from the river, and they're floating over above the river, and there was a whole bunch of kayakers on the river. So then they were coming and dipping the basket into the water and then going back up. And yeah,
Graceful.
it was interesting. Um,
Well, what
hmm.
was interesting with our festival is while the balloons were inflating, one of them caught fire.
Oh, that's great.
They weren't pulling the tarp up over the flame appropriately, and yeah, it literally, and it was as it was like getting ready to lift off too, so it like got up like 20 feet in the air and then like had to like come back down while in the same spot where another one was still inflating, and like they started freaking out, but crisis was averted. But yeah, they had to put a balloon out.
Nice. Put it out of its misery. Take it out back. Shoot it. But yeah, it's because we get member tastings and it's a fun place. But the last day that we were there, we went in and the dude's like, "You guys have tasted everything. Like what do you want to do?" And we're like, I don't know, like let's just have what we like haven't had yet." And we had 5 people and he goes, "Okay, buckle up. We're going to go on a wine journey." And I'm like, "Okay." And he comes back with he had 15 different wines, 6 tastings of each. Um, so we had 30 of the like little tasting glass things filled
Yeah,
with 3 tastings each. We had like 7 or 8 whites and like what is that, like 7 or 8, depend, I don't remember, but yeah, it was 15 different wines and it was so many. We had I did the math, like the amount of sorry if you can hear the dogs, but did the math that if you can count, it up being something like 15 tastings for 5 people.
yeah.
So so we ended up which was like a block from the wineries. So we didn't have to do much of any driving. Um, but we found like this other winery that they only do sparkling and months, and none of our parents told us no. So now we kind of just stuck like realizing this is an actual job now. And it's like, yeah, yeah, that's kind of what happens. But
uh,
they made some good wine, but it was funny because usually they'll give you like bread or like crackers or something like to cleanse the palate. But they were just pouring bags of Costco potato chips. It's like, yeah, these guys are definitely college kids. But that was fun. It was a
there,
good time.
there's a comedian talking about getting carded for buying wine. And he's like, I get it, I know. He goes, I look 17 at best. He's like, I look like a to catch a predator's bait child. He goes, I know how I look. He goes, but I feel like if someone's buying wine, they shouldn't be carded. He goes, wine and bourbon are the 2 alcohols you shouldn't be carded for. He goes, if you're drinking wine or you're purchasing wine, it's probably because you're going through some shit and you need that to get through it. He goes, if you're drinking bourbon, you've done together. But yeah.
Yeah, that nobody has ever said that. Although I will say that I did show up to a college party with wine. Tyson and we thought that it would, my buddy in college, thought that it would be hilarious to show up to a party with the box wine, like the 5 liter, with a
Oh yeah.
gigantic straw
No,
in it.
that's fun.
Yeah. So,
Oh, you basically turned that into a Capri Sun. An adult
yeah.
right now. She was actually expressing some mild frustration with it the other day, just because um, the only time she can really play is at night, so her only frustration with it is because the game's played in real time. Like at night, only certain fish are out or certain bugs and stuff like that. And during the day, if she wants to get stuff, it's hard for her. And then she's talking. She's like, "Would it be weird if I took it to work and played on my lunch?" I'm like, "Absolutely not." I'm like, "That
Absolutely
is."
not.
I'm like, "That is your time. You're off the clock. Whatever you do with your time is fine." I said, "It's no different than you sitting on your phone scrolling through Facebook while you're on your lunch." She's like, "I do that." I'm like, "Yeah, take your Switch to work, play."
Yep.
I'm like,
Yep.
"It's your time." She goes, "Yeah, that's a good way to look at it."
Yeah. Just yeah. I mean that when I worked at the power company, the lunch was our time. Like they didn't want you scheduling any lunch meetings. They didn't want you doing work through lunch. Like they're like take the hour, do whatever you need to do. Like so I literally just plugged in my Switch to my monitor and kicked my feet up on my desk and I just played right there.
There you go. Yeah, when I started working at Northwest Bank, I took the Switch with me to work because I had hour lunches there at the branch. And yeah, I used to hunt Koroks on lunch or um, I don't think I was super. I would do Mario Odyssey and stuff like that because yeah, I didn't have Smash Brothers yet to do Path of Light. Path of Light was a blast in Smash Brothers, by the way.
I
I know
haven't
you said you
played
haven't done
too
that yet.
much Smash, no.
Yeah, that was cool. It was to me that was or it was like their way of having like a campaign to the game.
Hmm.
It was fun. Yeah.
I'll have to go back and do that. There's so much stuff that I need to play. I just got a huge thing. I want to play the new Call of Duty when that comes out. Um, Zelda, everyone's like, this game's not called Tears of the Kingdom. It's Breath of the Wild too.
Ending, but and when it first came out, there was a small debate: is it Tears of the Kingdom or Tears of the
It's
Kingdom?
yeah.
Like you
Nintendo also
tear,
did say it's Tears of the Kingdom.
like yeah, crying tears.
I
Which if
didn't
you've
even
watched
see it as Tears. Like it, that didn't make sense to me at all.
it did so when like that was not an initial thought of mine at all, no. But when I saw people saying that, I was like, oh, based on the initial trailer that we did see, I can buy it if they're saying like the kingdom got torn apart and that's why now you have these floating islands and this and that and da da da. Almost like World of Warcraft, what happened to Draenor? It got torn asunder with all the fell energy, and that's why you got the Outlands now. And then there's all these floating things. So when I heard that, I was like, okay, maybe. But then once you watched more of the gameplay trailers that have been releasing, you realize that you're running around using these tiers, collecting these tiers and stuff like that, like
Yeah, but like
tiers to
even with that, like yeah, that makes sense, but I still thought that Tears made more sense. Like the world like Hyrule was made by Hylia.
uh, playthrough video that I dropped in the
No,
agenda.
I didn't have a second to watch
Uh,
that.
Entering dynamics to it with the climbing and stuff like that. Um, they're trying to expand that obviously by going even further up to these other platforms and everything like that, but there's also an underworld too, and that was, if you remember, in the original, what was it, the 2019 announcement trailer. Link and Zelda are like walking underground and there's all these runes on the walls and stuff like that. That's the underground. So that's actually going to be very pivotal. So you're going to be working through all three layers throughout this game. You're going to be on there, especially for like viewpoints and things like that, which that looked a lot of fun. The way you're going to have to explore now and things like that, which people have already said like get lifted or whatnot and stuff. Um, One thing that I thought looked really cool was hybrid. For lack of a better term, I'll say like hybrid boss encounters. So if you remember in Breath of the Wild, the stone talons, the rock colossal things that would come to life once you climbed on them. In Tears of the Kingdom, there's going to be some that you encounter on them. So you got to like pick off the bokoblin plus kill the rock elemental and stuff like that. So I thought that was pretty cool. So that interesting to think about what other hybrid boss mechanics they're going to bring in and stuff like that. Um, so that was really cool. Um, but
Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff that they can do with that for sure. And
mm,
I I think that a lot of it like I'm really excited to see what they end up doing with all of the new mechanics, elevator thing, and like being able to go
Yeah,
through.
is what they're bringing into with the like factions associated with the three pillars of the Triforce. I don't know if you saw that at all, if you were just watching on the side briefly, but um, there's factions associated with it. So like the Yiga clan being Ganondorf's followers and everything, they're the clan associated with power. Wisdom, what is it? The Sheikah are associated with the wisdom, and then courage is going to be one that we haven't actually met yet in other Zeldas yet. But they were alluding to that that's going to be who you get involved. They're buried, but then the YouTuber who was doing the playthrough and stuff like that, he was saying he can see it also being up in the heavens too. You'll encounter some up there as well. But I thought that was cool, associating factions with the pillars of the Triforce. That could be fun, creative, different plot element to the game that we haven't seen before in other Zeldas.
Yeah, that I mean, there's so much that they could do with it. And then I did also see someone took an idea that like when are they gonna stop making Zeldas? Like at this point we're like 30 plus years. Do you like come up with some new idea? Like I mean, I think that there's enough there to where they can find something. They can find new ideas, and make it work with the lore and the environment. But I do I do see what they were saying, that like at what point do you just say we're done with this IP? Let's move on.
I can see that too. I think what's unique with Zelda though is, I don't know if unique's the right word, but just the way that it is written though is the hero of time, and Zelda, or Link rather, is almost always like a reincarnated individual, almost for lack of a better term. You know, the hero always reawakens when it's called. So I can see where that argument's coming in, because at the end of the day, the plot of every, I shouldn't say every, but majority of every Zelda is the same. Ganon reawakens. He's threatening whatever land you're in, whether it's Hyrule, Low Rule, whatever. I can't think of the name of the map in Wind Waker or stuff like that. Skyward Sword, you're not in Hyrule. You know what I mean? But and
Yeah,
actually, but yeah, it always that same premise, you know. So it is kind of a rinse and repeat plot, but they always incorporate something that makes every Zelda feel different from the previous ones. So
yeah. I mean,
I can see, I can understand that argument. What the original writing was going for is that this is a never-ending cycle.
yeah.
You're always gonna have the
The mechanics enjoyable and like
people are gonna
challenging
buy it.
puzzles. I'll keep playing.
Mhm. Are you trying to say that you're bored of Zeldas?
No, I'm
Are
just
you
saying
empathize
that.
with this guy?
Yeah, I'm saying that I can see where he's coming from though. Like there there's
Oh,
there's a
I
point.
I
Yeah.
absolutely can too. I can too. Yeah, it does. I can understand that perspective. Because yeah,
Like I mean, look what
that is
happened with
a fair
Pokemon.
assessment.
Like they just kept making new Pokemon, but the game
Coming
no,
up with,
that's
you know what I
I
mean?
don't think they ran out of ideas. I think that they were just making like that was all that they did. They rode too hard on the gameplay, and they didn't innovate on gameplay. They just tried to add more Pokemon and maybe a different story. Like it
Yeah.
took until um like not red versus blue or not red versus blue. um
Wow.
it took until like X and Y for them to try something different.
Yeah.
And at that point, like it actually worked out. And then the new one, Arceus, and then was it Scarlet and Violet coming out in like a month or two is gonna take a lot from what they learned with that. Like if they're starting to change the formula a little bit and make it, I don't want to say more modern because it didn't feel like the old style was not modern. It just felt like it was
Used.
it was very very played out. Like they were riding on they were running on fumes.
Yeah. But that's so with that argument. So do you feel each Zelda has brought something new though and evolved and everything? Like, because as long as I feel they keep doing that, I think they're fine.
I've thought
And they
everyone
had like,
has up until Breath of the Wild did so much new, but it took out themed dungeons, and it took out
those are coming
the.
back though. Those are
Are
coming
they?
back.
Are they?
I thought he confirmed that in that video. Maybe I need to rewatch it,
I
but
don't know.
I felt like he reconfirmed that, or he confirmed that they're coming back.
But like,
Um,
who confirmed? Did Nintendo say something? Yes, unless Nintendo says it.
I think that's what he was saying. But I had that playing while I was working one day,
Oh,
so I was only able to like 60% pay attention.
but yeah, if they don't do themed dungeons again, I feel like even with all the good gameplay, like that's really gonna hit a lot of the Zelda fans. Like
Yeah,
that
for
was
sure.
the game was so good, but the fact that it was missing the one of the, if not the largest part of what a Zelda game is,
Hmm.
w- I'm surprised as many people were able to overlook it as they did. I'm like looking back, I'm surprised it received so many perfect scores without having traditional dungeons. Like I going back and like trying to play it, like it's fun, it's good, but you I guess going back and looking at it with like not fresh eyes because they're not fresh anymore, but like just
I
I
can look
guess
at it with
not
hungry eyes.
well I guess like taking off the rose colored glasses of new Zelda game and looking at it for okay, this is supposedly a Zelda game. Let's look at every Zelda up to it. You can see the formula. This one was missing the largest chunk of that.
I mean, so the only part that it was missing was the themed part. Cause you had all the sub dungeons with all the shrines, and then
Those
you
aren't
had
dungeons. Those are just
but
like a bite-sized puzzle.
correct, they are. But what is a dungeon in the originals? If you really look at it through that, take off those rose-colored glasses. If you
But
really look at it from for what it is,
what
it's a puzzle.
originals?
But it had a
No,
theme. You know what I mean?
each dungeon had multiple puzzles.
So, but that's what I'm getting at. So it's just a bunch of so yes, the shrines were puzzles. So each shrine, it was almost like they took all those dungeons and broke up all those rooms then and placed a room here,
Yeah, but
placed a room here,
why?
placed a
Like
room here.
that's
But
so
time out.
dumb.
I'm not trying to like disagree with you or anything. I'm just trying to
No, I
offer
get
this
it. I just
perspective.
don't know
So,
why they
so
did it.
that's
Like it doesn't
but
make
they
sense.
did have the four
The
divine
divine
beasts.
beast, yeah,
So
that
those were your dungeons because those were bigger. They just weren't themed.
I
They
don't
all
even
looked
think they looked exactly the same. They
the
some of
interior and
them
everything looked exactly the same, but
yeah, but I mean they did have some specific mechanics. Like
they
the
did
water one had some, the bird had some like wind puzzles,
had some aerial puzzles. Yeah,
but
so
like if you
they
look
you
at
can
those
argue that was themed still. Then it's just it wasn't as themed as like what it was because they
well
all
not only
like
that, but they were
with your other
tiny.
Zeldas.
Like even the divine
So
beasts were small.
they weren't as big as the other dungeons and other Zeldas, but they also weren't as small as the shrines. And I think that's what they realized that was the conscious decision that Nintendo made where if we're going to have 120 shrines, that's going to be exhausting to have that plus
Well, yeah,
massive
but
dungeons
nothing,
too.
you
So,
don't need to do all of the shrines. The shrines were there to
you know,
give you the ability to get more hearts or more energy. Like you
you
didn't need to do
you
them.
needed the hearts to get the Master Sword though. But
You
you can beat the game without the Master Sword.
but you only needed what? Like you only need to do like
13
30 or something? Like
13
yeah,
hearts.
which is well 13 hearts. Yes, which
Yeah.
is 26, 40, 52 shrines.
Yeah,
Well, you start with 3, so it would
start
actually
with
be
3. So you really
40
need 10, so
shrines.
40 shrines. 40
Yeah,
shrines to get your 13 hearts to pull the
which
sword out.
that's 1/3 of them that's in the game.
Mhm.
So I mean that.
But
So
if you
what you're
only do
saying is
that,
by that
you
mentality.
never have you'll never have the full energy wheel then, which
But yeah, I mean I didn't.
that's
But I
frustrating.
mean to fit like from what you're saying is that Nintendo said that after 40 shrines or what am I trying to? Okay, so after 40 shrines, they're assuming that most of the people are going to do the amount to get the Master Sword because that it's Zelda. So let's just assume that. So then their mindset kind of goes along the line of something like this, like that they think that the players are going to get like dungeon fatigue and not want to do like a big dungeon, which the shrines
I'm speculating.
I saw I'm speculate. Um, I saw the shrines as like bonus material, like as
Yeah.
something to go and do. Like they totally could have gotten away with the same amount of shrines, the same requirement for the Master Sword, but giving you putting in like 8 dungeons or something. Like even take the Master Sword up to 15. So that way you start with 3, you need to get 12. Throw 8 dungeons in, like that would be more than what they normally do. Let's just say 6 dungeons then. So you have 6 dungeons. Each one of the dungeon gives you a heart. That means that you would need to do 18 shrines. No, 24 shrines to get the rest. Which that I mean, it wouldn't have degraded anything, and it would have added so much. But I
My only other thought that I can attempt to think at for them, and I like this discussion because I'm not disagreeing with anything you're saying. I'm just trying to
well,
devil's advocate say what they may, because with that formula of every other Zelda, the dungeons made the game linear. You had to progress in a certain order
mm,
because you had to go to this dungeon. No, you had
no,
to
you
go to this
didn't.
dungeon first because you acquire this weapon here. That weapon's necessary to use to get into the next dungeon. So in Ocarina of Time, the only 2 dungeons you could alternate was um the what do you want, the desert, why can I is that wasn't considered light,
The
right?
spirit.
The shadow, yeah, spirit and shadow were the only 2 you could alternate. You had to do forest water, um or yeah, forest water fire, right? That's the order that went, or was it forest fire water?
You can
Either way,
do. No, you could go and
you could
do.
you could not alternate. Forest had to be done first because you need the hook shot to get into the water temple.
Yeah.
What weapon did you get
Forest water.
in the water temple?
The water temple was the iron boots.
No, you get the
No,
iron boots
you
before
get
the
the
water
hook
temple.
shot in the water temple.
You're right. You get the bow in
Yeah,
the yeah, you get the
yeah.
bow in the forest.
Because I
That's right.
know that I've done them out of order. Like you,
So no,
there
no,
are
no, 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 no,
some.
no, no.
There are gates. I've always done
Like it
fire
tells
second.
you, yeah, water's third, and I think it's because the order in which you have to get the songs and everything like that too to awaken things and da da
But
da da da.
that was a
So
choice to make the game
long,
linear. Like you
and
don't.
so that's what I'm saying. So that's what I'm saying. So coming back to that original thing, I think that's why they strived, whatever, strided away from
Walked.
yeah, walked, crawled, strutted.
Pivoted.
Let's keep going. What'd you say?
Pivoted.
Pivoted.
Let's pivot.
Um, actually pretty linear with the dungeons. Now with this one, you didn't need the master. You could literally go from the Great Plateau to Ganon. You didn't think that's what they were really striving for and why they just made that conscious decision to go away with the themed dungeons, just so they
Yeah.
could really have that open world non-linear
But I mean,
concept.
that just seems lazy to me. Like that just seems like they're like, okay, we want it open world. We don't want it linear. Uh, let's just take the theming out. Like, because what you could
You
do is like
you can argue the theme still was there with what we were talking about.
well,
You had the wind elements in the eagle, you had the water elements in the elephant, you have the sand elements in the camel, and you have the fire elements in the lizard.
but like you could
The
do
dungeon wasn't the dungeons weren't fire, water, air, and ground art themed, if that's what you're getting at. Why it didn't have
no.
that theme feel. They all had the Guardian
You really know
graphics,
what I
but
would have liked to see? I would have liked to see to where you get a weapon, an item that will help you out in the dungeons. Like they're not a requirement to complete other dungeons. Let's say that the dungeons, the themed dungeons are self-contained. So you get something that's useful, a boomerang. It
but it's not necessary to beat the game.
well no, it's necessary to beat the game because you need like the key or the triforce or the medallion or a side puzzle in other dungeons that unlock
Which makes
like
the side puzzle
yeah.
easier. The side puzzle's accomplishable
It would
without
be
it,
yeah, it
but
would
it makes
take
it easier.
well, I mean, you could even go as far to make it to where it requires that. So then you add a little bit of element of like a Metroidvania to where you have to backtrack. Like you go into a dungeon and it's the item in that dungeon was the boomerang, but you see some backtrack and try to explore. Like that's one of the other things that I felt like there were so many areas in
See the
Hyrule that were the the only reason to explore there is if you're trying to do Korok seeds or 100% the shrines. Like there were so many areas that were outside of like the story that you it it made the open world game feel linear in the aspect that you only needed to hit like a couple spots. Like if you make it a
if you're looking at if you're looking to play it that way, yes. But that's why I think they chose this because this game almost plays to two audiences. It plays to
Mhm.
the ones who, like me, I I went and completed everything before I even went to Hyrule. I did go and explore Hyrule prior because there's the one quest that you get from one of the stables of shrines to do the Master Sword. Then I went for the Master Sword. Then I wanted to make sure I had
Yeah,
all the material, I farmed all the materials to upgrade my gear. Like, that's how
that
I played the
doesn't
game.
seem like when I play, I want like a challenge too. Like I feel like those
I
open
know.
world games and everything. Like
So
I
that's what
feel
I'm saying though. This game played to those two audiences. It allowed you to be able to go and make it challenging by choosing to do as little as possible and maybe try to make it as linear as
but I
possible if
need
you
some
wanted to. Or
guardrails.
because for me, I when I play games, I like to play to explore. I like to immerse myself in a completely different made up fantasy world. So that's how I chose to play the game. I went and did all that's like I did all the story parts and unlocked all the shrines or all the divine beasts, but I didn't enter any until after I had all my master sword, till I had all my gear fully upgraded, till I did this, and then I was like, okay, now I'm gonna go knock out all those guys. That's how I chose to play it.
So yeah,
Again,
they
I think that was their conscious decision to allow this game to be played by any audience. Like,
like
if
I
you want to
get
go
that.
explore, go explore. If you want to go straight for Ganon and be challenging, go straight for Ganon and be challenging.
It makes
Which I
I
think
get
we
it.
should try that in one of our Let's Play days. We should both boot up
Oh
Breath of the
God,
Wild and just see if we can just book it to Ganon
like
and see what it takes.
it makes sense. Like that, I see what you're saying, but like I'm kind of I'm both of those players. So there's given they were presented when they were introduced, they're like, hey, these are optional. This is how you get it. This is what you do. This is what you're looking for. Like none of them became actually, I take that back. The shrines did have missions associated with it. So if they took that out,
There were some side quests that were like, go find this shrine.
so if they took that out, if they took made the Korok seeds and the shrines optional, like completely optional, no mission attached to it, no nothing. Um, then I think that would be a little bit easier to digest. Um, didn't want to play the game like that because I saw that if I did that, I'd become very overpowered. Like I would be there. There was a power curve like that. Those mechanics were
You
there
didn't
to gain
have to
more power.
become overpowered. You didn't have to. You get the spirit shards or whatever they're called, the spirit orbs at the end of each shrine. It doesn't give you any more hearts or any
No,
more stamina unless you go cash in on them.
but
Same
that's
thing
the
with.
that they were trying to use it for.
So I can understand where you're coming from, and I could drive with.
And when you get a quest and it's like, hey, go to Caraco Village or whatever, go talk to the old lady and stuff. I'm like, okay, that's what I'm gonna do. But then along the way, like going through that first gorge, there's one, two, three, four, five, six. There's at least 6 shrines and 2 towers that you see along the way. And at that point, it's like, ooh, shiny. Like I'm gonna go there. And like it,
So shiny.
yeah, 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 you're just like trucking through. You're like, I'm on a mission. Ooh, squirrel. Like it's like it just like I felt like it was a little bit too it's too distracting. Like from like let me play my Zelda game. Throw some extra shit in there for me to go collect in this open world you want me to live in, but don't I mean, this is going to sound really weird because that game did the best job at not shoving open world shit down your throat. Just go play any Assassin's Creed game and you'll see what I mean. You, you go up in a tower in like any Ubisoft game and it's like it's like a slot machine on your map of like objectives to go like figure out what to do and it's like just decision paralysis like I'll deal with that in the morning. Like
I just found out, like mid last week of how that I can turn those tutorials off. Every time, like I go up with something, it's like, oh, don't forget that from this point you could do a leap of faith, or don't. It's like, dude, I've done like 900 leap of faiths. I know how to do my leap of faith.
yeah, there's so there it was
Well, I actually,
have you played any of Breath of the Wild with the UI turned off?
no, I know that's how you were playing it when it first came out, weren't you?
Yeah, it was actually really really
With the
good.
HUD turned off, yeah.
Yeah, that actually helped.
HUD off also took your health bar away, right? You don't see your hearts even, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Maybe,
Um
maybe that's what I'll do is I'll go play Master Quest with no HUD.
have you played the Master Quest? They'll start regenning. Um
And you really have to use the dodge mechanic.
uh
Otherwise you get like one shot.
you got to use more than that, but yeah,
Well, the
there's
dodge mechanic of my first is like the where you dodge or swipe and then it like slows
oh yeah,
down. You
yeah,
can do your
yeah.
flurry. Yeah.
Yeah. No, and but it not just you need to use that, but you need to make sure like okay, so on the Great Plateau there's a Lionel.
Yeah,
There's
you
like a
told me. Yeah, you
yeah.
told me that there's a Lionel on the
Um
Great Plateau.
the base bokoblins are the red with black markings. Like they're the level 3 bokoblins. Like the
Or that like if it's the same as the regular, that's like 720 health right out the
yeah,
gate.
yeah. So you got to farm up twigs. You got to
Or wait,
have like a
those
full you
yeah.
got to have like 10 twigs to fight one bokoblin. Like just
Wait,
because they keep breaking and it's like it was or the hero's quest I think is what they call it would have been way more enjoyable if they took durability away from weapons or at least made them like
that was one of the
double
big things that's curious about.
a way to make weapons.
Make them on the fly. Yeah, we've talked about
Yeah.
that
Oh
before.
yeah, I was telling you that there's a with the
A
emulator.
modded one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can add a whole crafting system, which is really cool.
Yeah. Um, I think that was kind of their incentive though to make you want to go get the Master Sword, because technically the Master Sword never breaks, but it does run out of energy and you gotta wait 10 minutes. But I think that was their way of
What are you gonna
incentivizing
do? Just
getting the Master
run
Sword.
laps around like the Guardians for 10 minutes? Just that. Hold on, buddy.
No,
Like,
when I play the game, that's why I use a Master Sword, and I have an arsenal of backup weapons, but I don't have to touch those, and it saves break time on them because the Master Sword one had a longer like the energy lasted longer than the durability on the other weapons. So you could get through a full Lionel fight without that sword breaking, maybe even two without that sword breaking. You know what? I'm gonna
yeah,
test that. That's gonna be
yeah.
what I
I
do this
mean,
week.
but like,
I'm gonna get a fresh Master Sword and see. Granted, my Master Sword's fully upgraded from all the bonus DLCs, but I'm gonna do that and see how many Lionels I can get through with one Master Sword charge, and then see how many, like using the Royal Broadsword, how many Lionels I get through before that breaks. Um, and I can do. Ooh, this is gonna be fun because then they have like the different versions. You have the ones that have like the durability bonus on them. You have the ones that have like the long throw bonus, which I think was the dumbest thing in the world because who's just gonna chuck a sword at somebody? And then they had
I
the other
did
ones that
that.
had the
It was
bonus
fun.
damage. So the only time I see that being good is like when you knew your sword was about to break, it did bonus damage if it broke on the throw. It did double damage if it broke on the throw. That's cute. Combing your
Mhm.
beard. Is this video sponsored by Dollar Shave Club or
Maybe we should hit him up. Figure-
um
like that, like just took you out of the immersion of Zelda, though. Too is it's like, wait, my Master Sword just got like tired, like you just fell asleep, like the Master Sword suffers from narcolepsy, like what,
I
like
was thinking like limp dick syndrome, but we'll go with
he drank
narcolepsy.
too much. He's-
I got a whiskey dick Master Sword.
like, that's funny that we just that was very cyclical here because I think like episode 2 or something, Derek and I covered this same exact conversation, to where he thinks that it was pretty garbage of a game. Like he did not enjoy Breath of the Wild at all because
Really?
they changed too much. Like it. So
I'll give you
here's
that. They
when
they
I
did they did change a lot at once. I think my if I have to say what was when I was playing in real time, I got over it quickly, but it was an initial like when I first saw it and I was like, wait, what the fuck? You get the Sheikah slate. I'm just given all this from the start. But then I think what caused that to wear off was realizing the way even the because I think that's where the other difference is the puzzles weren't just restrictive to the shrines. There were puzzles in throughout the world too, whether it was finding a Korok or even puzzles that like weren't like in your face, I'm a puzzle, solve me. Like get from this side of the river to that side of the river. I can look at my stasis. No, stasis is
no.
the is NSA listening in now? Like did I just flag us? In 10 seconds, you're gonna have someone knocking at your door. So,
I, I don't know why I found that so funny. I'm like, wait, did he just say
is that what
ISIS?
it's called though, right? Or was it
It's
the
cryosis or something, I think.
cryosis? That's right. That's right. And stasis is the time freezing one.
Yeah. You're just
I'm
thinking
dumb.
ice. Like,
In my defense, it's 10:30 p.m. here. I've been up since 5 a.m. just like every other podcast day. So, um, but anyway, yeah, I did not like that. I was like, that's not cool. I was like,
I
they're
just
giving me
think
way too much.
like looking back at it, it it was a very, very good game, but I think that it was a weak Zelda game.
Really?
Like I agree, but you could miss so much if you didn't hunt. It's like water, water. Oh hey, water. Like it was, yeah.
Uh,
I mean, I get your point. Fair enough, but They're two different things, damn it.
I mean,
There are some fishing in games that are actually really fun. Like
the
there's some
harpooning in
games that's good.
Assassin's Creed was pretty fun. I showed that to Lindsay the other day, the harpooning sequences in there.
No, if you don't like fishing in a game, then you're gonna fucking hate Animal Crossing.
Yeah.
That's why I always used a fishing bot.
Haha.
That's the one bot that I used, and I'll admit that, full on admit it. It was just it was a screen, it was a pixel scanner. So what it would in the picture, which percentage change on that part of the screen, and then it would just click the bobber, and you just have auto loot on, and you just let it sit there.
Yep.
It had like no hooks into the game. It didn't, and just hotkey fish, hotkey bobber, and just walk away for like 3 hours. Come back to a full bag of fish.
Do you remember farming PvP, XP, and honor and stuff like that with the auto clicker mod? Just leaving the game open while it auto click, and we
Oh
would
yeah,
just leave our guys in the
yeah.
battleground war room, just standing next to the Alterac Valley dude, and it would just click, and it would click on the NPC, so the thing opens up, and then eventually get to queue up, and then we'd just be AFK in a 3-hour AFV.
Yeah,
But
that was before you could get reported and kicked from
yeah,
them.
yep.
That was hilarious. Yeah.
So into like, remember you would have like
No, I had you
3 of
play
the.
the one time, like because it was like a 20-hour AV. I'm
Oh
like, I
yeah.
need to go to bed. Get on here and play this, please.
Yeah, remember though, like you would have like 3 or 4 like elemental summonings per game,
Oh yeah, now
and
you're
it was
lucky if you get like two.
it's like this like dead dude just like falling or whatever, and it's
Yeah,
like we honor thee or something like
I just
that.
I would kill to summon the. Just go to
Yep,
Belinda and fight. That's all you need to do. Like, don't let them kill her. Just fight. Just
dude,
fuck.
AVs now like
15 years.
oh yeah,
Yep.
maybe a graveyard. Um,
Yeah, I've
talking about
seen
WoW though, oh
I've
go
seen
ahead.
AVs to where like two rogues will split off, capture the towers. You'll just zerg the mini boss, and then everyone just AFKs waiting for the towers to cap. As soon as the second one caps, it's just a race to see who can kill the boss the fastest.
Yep.
Like you might
I
have
used to love.
one rogue sitting all the way in the back, and they're like, he's at 40%, and you're like, oh, ours is at 23. Like, we got this. Like, just
Yep.
yeah, it's so dumb.
Or like you start pulling the boss like as you know the tower's about to cap in like 3 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
So you engage the boss early and then all of a sudden like one of the boss's ads like looking at you and then just disappears.
It's like Back to the Future just got erased.
Yep. Pulling out the photograph. Marty.
Vander, no.
Um Now talking about WoW though, I did start playing Wrath Classic. Um Having a lot of fun with it already. Started the Paladin. I'm level 18. Um so much. I'm so ready for the grind. I tried. I'm so mad at myself. Um, I had a perfect quest log where I had 10 quests in my quest log, and all 10 of them were completed. And thought I recorded in metal, and I didn't because I was just gonna make a little tiny thing about it, like the perfect quest log does not exist, and then like zoom in on it, and be like, oh. But anyway, it's super corny. Um, but first,
Mm-hmm.
world first 80
Yeah,
was within just under 9 hours of release.
yeah, I saw
Um,
that.
yeah,
I was
I,
just
I,
gonna
I
say
never,
that.
yeah, from Echo, now or however you say his name, Naowh. He's their tank for all their MDI
Yep.
stuff. Ridiculously good player. Did you look at all into how
Did
he
he
did it?
play? Did he play Death Knight? Did he level a Death Knight?
No, no, no. He leveled
No.
his paladin. He did a paladin.
Oh.
Um, from 71 to 80, he just uh mob camped Ice Crown. There's a
Yep.
mob there that it's even still this way in retail. That's what he was saying.
Okay.
He goes, they haven't fixed this. He goes, so I was gonna take advantage of it. But the mob, it's a mob that spawns ads, and with each wave of ads it spawns, when it spawns the next wave, whether those mobs were dead or not, they do die and you get XP off them. So, mechanics.
Mm-hmm.
When you have a group together, the overall XP that's distributed is higher, just split amongst
Yeah.
everybody. But if those that are dead, if some are dead, these are his other Echo
Yeah.
Guild buddies that were level ones and just dead in Ice Crown, and he just kept farming this boss over and over again and letting those mobs die. So
They logged off in the party and then just started leveling their actual
probably,
character.
probably could be. Um, but yeah, everyone you would go in, two people in a dungeon. Um,
The big one was
one person,
what was it? The Nexus?
yeah, one
Yeah.
person would go in and aggro a bunch of things or whatever, everything. Counter drops off, drop group again, counter recycles. So that's what he did to do it, because he went from 70 to 79 in 13 hours. He had a GM reach out to him, and the GM, he has screenshots of it, and this all popped up in the other article I was reading about now, just hitting the recent 80. But in that screenshot, the GM was telling him, no, you're exploiting an in-game mechanic that we haven't done the bug fix for, so you're actually good. Just like the conversation, he was just chatting with him, making sure he wasn't botting or whatever. Da 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 da.
Well,
He
that's
still did
kind of
eventually get
funny.
he still did eventually get banned though, which that's why he was mad, because he took screenshots of that conversation with the GM
Yeah.
and he's like, I'm going to take this as proof. But he did get banned. The reason I'm bringing that up though is because Now did mention this. He said, he goes, this is cool that I got world first 80. He goes, not gonna lie, if they use me to make an example of this though, if they think this is exploiting something, or if I did something sneaky in any way, shape, or form, whatever, he goes, I'm not gonna be mad at all. He goes, it was just fun to do. He goes, playing classic versions is my vacation from retail. He goes, but by the fact that this still exists in retail, I don't think it's going to be something I'll get banned. He goes, but if it happens, cool. He goes, because then that opens a fun new challenge to get a ban and then log back on and get world first a second time.
That's funny. But yeah, that's interesting that the GM initially said that, because the other really big, like, abused exploit happened in the what's his name, Arthas race, the original Wrath Arthas race. They there was a, I forget exactly how the exploit and the bug worked, but you could get the engineering Serenite bombs, and you could throw those out on the platform right before he, like,
Did
does
the
the
shatter?
did the shatter, and it would negate the shatter, or it would make it to where that part of the platform that was supposed to not be there anymore was still usable, but it was also not affected by defile. So, like, you
Oh,
could
that's the huge
totally,
clutch spot
yeah,
there.
you could
Just
totally
chill there.
negate an entire mechanic from the fight, and an entire guild ended up getting banned while they were trying to do the heroic world first, because they used that bug.
See, I don't think that's appropriate to get banned if somebody's exploiting a bug that you haven't fixed yet.
Well, yeah, I mean, if they're if they're
Because
doing
that's
something,
impressive to figure it out, in my opinion.
I think there's a fine line. Like, I think if it's a race or something like that, then sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
That
okay,
that
okay, I could
well,
buy
no, no,
that.
no,
I could buy
sorry.
that if it's a
Not
race.
I'm saying not ban people, but I'm saying, like, if that bug's there and it's a race, they shouldn't be banned. Leave it, because everyone had the same ability and the
To do
same
that.
to figure that out. Um, but if you're using, like, an exploit to, like, duplicate gear or gold and, like, make a profit and fuck the economy over, like,
That's
yeah,
different.
that's something different. But I
If
mean,
what you're doing is gonna impact if what you're doing is gonna impact other
yeah,
players, then yeah, that's different. But
I mean, how many times have people used, like, enemy pathing exploits, or, like, jumping over, like, geometry to, like, drop aggro, or, like, there's there's so much like it's a slippery slope. Like
Bro, I was literally doing that today. I mean, I wasn't dropping aggro, but I've definitely noticed like a different consciousness, I guess, in my playstyle with replaying this. Because, like, if you're playing retail and you're leveling nowadays, you can go take on 3, 4 mobs at a time, no big deal. Back
yeah.
then, even two mobs could be difficult at times. Three
Mm-hmm.
mobs was definitely difficult. But I've definitely been doing that. Like I was in Red Ridge Mountains and doing the Knoll quest where you have to kill the mongrels and the poachers. The
Mm-hmm.
poachers are archers, the mongrels are melee, and they're always
Right
in
by the
camps of
tree.
3. Yeah, and they're
Yep.
always in camps
Mm-hmm.
of 3. So I would look at the camp, be like, oh, there's 2 mongrels, 1 poacher. I'm gonna try to body pull just 2 if I can. If all 3 come, I'm just gonna go book it as far as I can this way, have the melee chase me, the poacher gets out of range, he stops hitting me for 10 seconds because he's got to catch up and get in range. I can
I
heal myself enough to
distinctly
get through the 2.
remember doing that same exact thing, but I was playing a
Yep.
rogue at the time. So I would sap the poacher, and then
Yeah, sap the poacher.
if I didn't get one of the mongrels down by the time sap wore off, I would just vanish and reset.
Yeah.
Like because I couldn't take
Yep.
3. I could live through 2, but I couldn't do 3. So
Well, I
I
remember
would
when I
do
was
that.
playing Classic when that came out, I was playing.
The other place I remember one other specific place was the staircase in Zaldurak, with
Mhm.
all like the spectrals and everything. Like it was just so densely populated that it was incredibly hard to quest in that area and not pull like 3 at once. Oh
Still,
yeah.
always smart to be able to know your surroundings and what you can exploit to drop aggro, spread aggro out, whatever.
And then once I
Um,
switched to the Death Knight, it was just stupid easy. Just you just stack strength and hit death.
I actually read notes on it beforehand, but I'm not like that. I like to just learn things in real time. Um, they nerfed mount leveling or lowered mount leveling or
What?
the level that you need to be at to mount. So instead of 40-60, it's
Yeah.
60-40 or 20-40 rather. So you get your 60% mount at 20, you get your epic mount at 40, and then flying. As soon as you hit 60, I can start flying in Outlands.
I thought they did that when Wrath
Not,
originally.
not, nope, nope, not in original Wrath. You still could not fly him. You still had to
You
hit 70
sure?
before you could fly. Positive. This is new to this Wrath Classic. I
Yeah, I remember
probably
that
have that screenshot
changing.
somewhere. It did change. It may not have been till Kata or Mista Pandaria, because I distinctly remember having a screenshot. Because if you remember when Wrath came out, I have a picture of me and you being level 40 with mounts. Is when we first got our mounts. I have a screenshot somewhere of
Yeah.
that. It was level
Yeah, I
40 that
mean,
we first got our mounts. Because in original
well, that's
Wrath, it was still
original.
40-60. Original Wrath was still 40-60.
Here we go.
I'm like 99% sure.
Surprising changes from flying mount. Okay. Patch 3.2, the notes. Here we go. Regular land mounts can now be trained at level 20. Epic mounts are trainable at level 40. Regular flying mounts are trainable at level 60, and epic flying is trained at level 70. This was original Wrath. It is patch
Really?
3.2. Yep.
Was 3.2 launch Wrath, or was that
3.2 was after Ulduar and Argent tournament.
okay? So that was very late into the expansion then. That was
3.2 would have been
right before
Ulduar
ICC.
patch, or would have been, yeah, yeah. But yeah,
Because
all of
Argent
that did
tournament
get
was after
dropped.
Ulduar.
Cold weather flying will remain unchanged. Yeah,
So
okay.
okay, so they just announced
Just,
or they
yeah.
just had this mechanic at launch for Classic rather than progressing through the patches for it.
Yeah, it
Meh.
seems that way. Let's see. Patch 3.2 was September 22nd, um, 2009, which was the revamp of Onyxia.
40 when I bought the mounts originally when I was dual boxing us for the dual XP.
Hmm.
But um
But Yeah.
Last call out I want to give though. You have to get into LFG chat now. Like you can't just
Okay.
like join LFG chat. You have to. They have an LFG thing set up, but it's not the way like the current Dungeon Finder works in retail.
Mm-hmm.
Like you say, you specifically queue up for questing and say like what zone you're questing in, or same thing with dungeons, blah blah blah. But once you're queued, and here are a couple of the random comments I saw. Well,
-9, name it looking for group, and then just talk in general and say, hey, everybody join looking for
/9.
group. Yeah.
But general was still specific to what zone you're in. It wasn't global.
Well, yeah, I mean, you could go like,
LFG is global. It's
yeah, but I
global.
mean, just
So
every zone you change, just have it a macro.
yeah.
Join this.
Yep. Um, Tony Hawkins was the best scientist ever.
That's a good scientist.
Pickle juice kind of slaps.
It does, especially if you're drinking it with tequila.
So these are the non-toxic comments that I just thought were hilarious because like these were all in the middle of like toxic back and forth things, and then just someone would just fucking chime in and just throw the most off the wall thing. Stovetop Kool-Aid is fire.
Yeah,
uh,
but
but
yeah, no. I mean, good. Yeah, I'm glad that it still has some magic like that.
oh, it's not World of Warcraft unless you have some iteration of.
Atlas loot started up.
I have Atlas loot. Maybe
Oh,
I will.
what the
Did
fuck
someone
just
say
happened? Oh, this is fun.
what happened?
Oh, I don't know if we're live or not. My screen froze. So,
Oh no, it's been lagging in and out the whole time.
well, yeah, but I hope that you all enjoyed what you could see. There's going to be a bonus episode of awesomeness. But thank you all for joining. We appreciate you guys, and we shall see you next week.
Sounds good. Yeah, looking forward to. Actually, we need to talk about next week how that's gonna work, but we'll figure that out.
We will. We will. See you guys.
Peace.
I gotta figure out how to get my screen back. Hold on.
I need a better send off than peace, but I liked the way this episode. Are you sure? What was that? Oh.